Hello everyone and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. I'm joined by Connor Williams and Callum Brannan. My name is of course Cal, and we are going to be going over what's going on at Everton at the minute, or the lack of things that are going on, if we're being honest. So first of all, lads, how we doing? We good?
Yeah, really good, mate.
Yep,
besides the
all
whole
good.
laptop update. Besides the whole
Yeah,
laptop update thing.
Cal had a few issues. Cal had a few issues early on, but we are all rectified now. So yeah, today's video, we're going to be talking about we're going to be delving into transfers. And of course, we are live on YouTube. So if you are watching, be sure to give us a thumbs up and be sure to put your comments down below. And we'll read as many out as we can, get involved and share your thoughts with us. So yeah, we're going to jump straight into it. What are we having a moan about today? A big thing on the agenda today seems to be that it looks like Denzel Dumfries is not going to be an Everton player. It looks like Denzel Dumfries, the right back, PSV Eindhoven, looked very much like he was on Everton's radar. He was a prime choice to be Everton's new right back, but of course, due to the lack of funds available to Everton this summer, it looks like that's not going to happen. So first of all, Connor, we'll start with you. How much of a blow is this that looks like Dumfries is not going to be an Everton player?
I think it's a massive blow, especially for the fee that's been rumoured. I'm still hearing 12 million now all of a sudden, which is I thought was considerably less than what we were rumoured with. I heard our price had gone up, but I'm hearing now it's 12 million again or something around that figure. I think it's a massive blow. I think a right back, even if it is 25, I think a right back of his quality going for that little is a bit of a steal. And the fact that we were, I'm going to say in the front seat, reportedly was in the front seat, and the fact that Marcel Brands has got a relationship with him and with PSV, it just seems like one of those that we've almost like an open goal and we've missed it sort of thing.
Yeah, Callum, would you agree? Big miss for Everton, like Con just mentioned then, it would have been for a very good cut price deal. It was a sort of player that we've been crying out for down the right-hand side, and it's just passed us by because of our current situation. So yeah, big blow for you as well.
Yeah, it really is. We needed that right back, and I think I don't think it's the end of the world. I think there are other options out there, but I think this one was a very standout option at a good price. You don't get these often. It was one where we kind of didn't really need to go too in detail on him. Brands had a good relationship. He'd been good at PSV. He'd been good at the Euros. Cheap price. It was put on a plate for us. But then again, we don't have the money to meet his personal terms. And if he's asking for ridiculous wages because of a good Euros, is it really a bad thing? Because look at the situation. Why are we in this situation we're in now? Because we're offering players ridiculous amounts of money, and then they're accepting it and then not performing to the level of those wages. So I think it's a blow, but I think Everton will hopefully bring in a decent right back. I hope it's not going to be a rotation with John Joe Kenny and Seamus Coleman, but we'll have to see. But I do think it's, like I said in an earlier stream, it's going to be one of those things where we do our business. Once again, Everton do their business right at the end of the window to give us all panic attacks.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with both of you, lads. I think it's, towards the back end of last season, you could argue for the majority of last season, it was quite clear that the right back position was an area that we needed to address as a matter of urgency, because it's quite obvious that Seamus Coleman can't get up and down as he used to do. You're not going to get him playing, a couple of games a week in, week out. It's just not going to happen. So it was a position of urgency. So Connor, is this going to be a really big concern for Everton, because this was an area of priority, and do you think they'll be sweating now trying to get a right back in? And does this need to be addressed as a matter of urgency?
I'd say yeah, more so than some of the other positions we're looking at. So I know we're looking at like a right winger and stuff, and we're looking at a midfielder, and we've been linked with a centre back all summer as well. I'd say this is the most important position to get nailed on. I think at moments last season, Seamus Coleman was sort of caught out just because of the amount of games, his age, the yard of pace that's naturally dropped from him. I think there were certain games last season where people were saying, Seamus Coleman being our first choice right back is starting to not hinder us, because I don't want to be too harsh on him, but you can sort of see that the quality's dropped off, more few physical attributes drop in, I feel. So I thought it'd be, quite an obvious position to need to fill. I don't know if they were banking on John Joe Kenny having a really good time at Celtic, but from what I can gather from Celtic fans that I know, he's not had the best season at Celtic. But I'd say definitely I wouldn't even say a rotation player. I'd say we need a first team right back who's going to be an obvious one, and then Seamus Coleman be rotated. But the more this window goes on, the more I've got a horrible feeling we're going to end up looking at it more as Seamus Coleman's our main choice, and we'll get a rotation.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is that I think towards the end of last season, it was just so blindingly obvious of how poor some of the players in this squad were, and that goes for squad depth, that goes for quality in starting 11. And I think we just got found out towards the end of last season because we just got picked off by teams because some of the players were just that, I do believe, are that poor. So Callum, obviously, there's an argument there that the last 5 years of Everton's naivety in the transfer market, if you like, and just throwing stupid kinds of money at players. Me and Connor were speaking off there before about, we look at a team like Aston Villa, who were in a similar situation to we were when we sold our prize asset in Romelu Lukaku. Now, obviously, in their case, it's Jack Grealish, and they've seemed to be very shrewd about their, they've identified positions that they've needed to strengthen. You look at Leon Bailey, who was a player who we would have liked ourselves, and that money's been spent very wisely, hasn't it? And that was the way to do it. Now, on the flip side, that we've just seemed to have, through stupid amounts of money at players who have, let's be real, they've not really contributed that much to think matters on the pitch, and now we're left with these players, some still at the club on big wages, and as a result, we're not able to spend how we would have liked to. So, Callum, how much of a worry is it that a lot of these players who were very much passengers last season and offered very little and are very poor, and I'm alluding to the Gomez's, the Iwobis, the Delphs, there's an argument there for Michael Kean, Holgate. So, Callum, are you worried that a lot of these players are still pretty much as is going into this new season?
I don't know really, because in the end, it's hard to figure out, and it's hard to plaster a name on a player and say they're going to do this and say it's guaranteed that they're not going to produce. But in the end, I think a lot of them have got a reputation over doing this over a few seasons. Like Gomez, I feel like Gomez has just lost it ever since his injury, and he just doesn't have the same.
Yeah.
I think he's just a little bit weak on his legs and his stuff, and it's kind of all that rehabilitation did his stamina in which he never had much stamina, but now he's it's plummeted, and it's difficult because at the same time no one wants to buy these players. So I don't know if the Rafa strategy is just to go, how about we give you guys 6 months, hopefully some of you can impress, and then we can send you off. Because with Iwobi, it might be he wants to keep Iwobi because he can see maybe unlocking a little bit of potential from Iwobi that we can see that he has. And then maybe he impresses at the Africa Cup of Nations, and then we can get, instead of 10 million, maybe we can get 20 million for him, because it's an international tournament, is it? If he has an unreal Africa Cup of Nations and Nigeria go on to win it, it'll boost his price up even in the summer, because that's how it works. They'll see, oh, maybe he didn't perform for Everton, but look what he did for Nigeria. It's like Schick. Look at Schick for Leverkusen, for Roma. Never really bagged for Leipzig, I think he played for too. Never really banged in the goals. And then all of a sudden, he scores a few goals at the Euros, and we're being linked with a £40 million move for him. So it's very hard to judge before the first game of the season. I think after the Southampton game, it'll be much easier to judge, are these players dead weight after a few games. Like I've said it a few times, maybe January will be where we see most of our business done, but I think it's going to be a rough start, and I just don't know if we're going to be able to get in those players we need because of what looks like now dead wood in our squad.
Yeah, I mean, before we go on to potential outgoings, we can live in hope, can't we, that some of these players are going to leave. But the two sort of main players that have been talked about in recent days, obviously we just discussed Denzel Dumfries. Then it looks like we're going to miss out on him. But a name that's come to fruition today is Lorenzo Insigne, the centre forward for Napoli. He's the Napoli captain. Connor, is this something that you can see happening, or is this just a battle that's just being scraped of transfer rumours? Because as Evertonians, we know that given our predicament, this sort of move can't happen. Or do you think there's some legs in this? What do you reckon?
Well, we were saying, weren't we, off air before, this for me has come absolutely out of nowhere. And I know he's on the last bit of his contract, but like we were saying, it's hard to believe that on some rumours we don't have enough money to fulfil transfers, so the Dumfries one. And then for certain other players, we seem to be able to find the money. There's no denying the quality that he brings either. I know a couple of people in the comments have said about the quality he has, and I actually thought he played quite well at the Euros. He's very good, and he's very dangerous from outside the box. But I just feel like he's going to bring in so say now if you get him for a cup fee because he's on the last year of his contract, he's not going to come cheaply in terms of actual contracts, so actual wages, sorry. And he's one of those that's getting on a little bit more. You know, he's not 22. So I feel like he'd be an instant one for maybe the first 2 seasons, but then after that, depending on the contract we give him and how many wages, we could end up with another 31-year-old on extortionate wages that we're going to really struggle to budge.
Yeah, that's a great point. Callum, what are your thoughts on the Insigne rumour?
I think it's absolute waffle, really, to be honest with you, because in the end, why is Insigne going to join Everton? Like, come on. Like, Napoli, why would you leave Napoli for? And I know it's something about there's someone in the club that he's fallen out with, and even though he wants to stay at Napoli, he doesn't get along with this person, and he's just maybe. But like, for example, a team like Dortmund, I know it's not the recruiting strategy, but he could go to there. I bet there's a few top teams in Italy that would take him. AC Milan don't seem to have a problem with signing older players. Why would AC Milan not take a punt? Why would Inter not take a punt when they don't have any money? You know, Lorenzo Insigne is unreal. He's a fantastic winger and he's proven it. He knows how to get goals. He knows how to involve his teammates. Why would he join Everton? If the guy wants to win trophies, probably, and you know he's not really being this sort of player to win a lot of trophies because he's been at Napoli. You know, he's just won the Euros. He might have seen the trophy, seen the European Championship, and gone, you know what? Maybe I can win a few trophies. Even Abigail's put here, he wants to stay in Italy, which isn't a surprise at all. I rarely see a team. Honestly, I think it's Inter Milan. And to be honest, I think if we did get him, we'd have to pray that this Kean stuff's true anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, you delve into a few of the comments now. You know, obviously, we talk about a striker there. You know, if that is to be believed, maybe Benitez is looking for a striker there. Roy Keane's put, I know it's a bit random, but would you take Edin Dzeko as his contract was up? No. Dzeko, could he do a job for us back up to Calvert-Lewin, or is that not really for us right now? Yeah, is that a bridge too far for you?
He can score goals, don't get me wrong, but he's 35 and he'll want big wages because like Qatar or something, or Saudi Arabia, that all of a sudden they're all rich, they're all rich in footballing terms now. Why would he? There's a few clubs that will offer him a ton of money. Why join Everton to sit on the bench when we tell you, listen, mate, the most we'll give you is $100,000 a week, when he could go play up front in Saudi Arabia, which isn't difficult, for $200,000 a week, kind of like what Matheus Pereira's gone and done. I just don't see it, and personally, I wouldn't want it anyway. The he's 34 or 35 now. It's just he's a good striker, but if we're going to sign a young striker, why not sign a young striker who could possibly get better in the future?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Of course, in the comments, just feel free to throw in any thoughts you want to hear that we have on any potential transfer targets. Eugene McGeever, he says Blues back to make Barkley move. Kind of what I've heard some of the Barkley talk. Where's your stance on the Barkley thing?
I mean, from a personal, take the footballing side slightly out of it. I'm fully against it just because of the nature of him leaving. But even if you add in the football talk now and take away the emotional side of it, he didn't impress me for Villa this season. Last season now. The only game I watched him where I thought he looks really good and he should have got a hat-trick in the game, but he was insistent on taking shots with his left foot, was against Liverpool. And I don't know if that's just, maybe a bit of a hidden incentive because he's, meant to be a fan of Everton and that sort of inspired him a little bit more. But that was the only game that I watched where he played for Villa where I thought, this is, Ross Barkley that we saw at Everton, the Ross Barkley that we at one point loved at Everton. Other than that, I don't think he's really shone, and it proves it in the fact that Villa aren't pushing to get him back either. They look to be turning their attention to James Ward-Prowse and really wanting him, who's a fantastic midfielder and I think will be a great signing for Villa. But the fact that Villa aren't pushing for Ross Barkley after a season-long loan sort of tells you the story there.
Yeah, definitely. I think Owen Koeman agrees with you. He says Barkley's poor would be an awful sign. Sean says, I feel like McNeil should be prioritised over Insigne. Now, it's an interesting one, this McNeil one. I've seen a lot of people very much for him and say that he's a young English talent that would fit in well at him. But I've seen some players maybe question his pace. Personally, I don't think I'd mind seeing Dwight McNeil 11. I feel like he could definitely do a job. What do you think, Callum? Would McNeil be the sort of player you'd be looking to sign if we miraculously got a load of funds somehow?
Yeah, I'd like Dwight McNeil at Everton. And like I said, I do think the funds are coming in one way or another from Kean, because I think it's clear that something's happening, with all the stuff on his Instagram and stuff like that. I don't really know. But I think McNeil's a good signing. I think, he's young, he's English, a lot of talent, very good technically. I mean, we've seen his technical ability, the goal against us, you know what I mean? How he played against us did we lose to Burnley that game? We lost 2-0, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of talent, and if he's, I think I said this with you, Connor, on the one we did. If he's desperate to get rid of James, maybe even play McNeil as a 10 or something. But it's even we had a Burnley fan in, and he said, McNeil's got like a sort of like deceiving pace where he's a lot quicker than you'd think he'd be. So yeah, I'd take it. And for 25 million, which is the rumored price that Burnley might accept now, it's a good deal. And in the end, as long as we're not playing 40 to 45 million for someone who, in the end, we might have to change our system to fit in, like Harold's put here. But he's just, I think with someone with the technical ability of McNeil, he doesn't have to be blisteringly quick. Because if you're smart with the ball at your feet, then you know what you're doing with it. You don't have to bring other players into the game, which is why maybe if James leaves, he plays him in the 10. But yeah, I'd like to see McNeil at Everton because personally, I don't know any other choices right now that Bailey's gone and stuff like that. Is there any other winger with a lot of pace and a lot of ability that we could sign for 25 million?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, just to pick up on your point about, we'll just delve into the Moise Kean talk, but like it's quite obvious at the minute that if Everton want to spend money on players and big money on players, it's quite obvious now we are going to have to sell some players and sell some of the high earners at the club. And one of those, of course, is Moise Kean. There's a lot of talk about him recently. He left PSG. And it looked very much like he was definitely not going to be an Everton player. And then he came back to pre-season and he was heavily featured in some of our pre-season fixtures. But now in the last couple of days, it seems that it's taken another turn. He's deleted all of his Instagram photos. Any trace of Everton on his Instagram has completely been wiped. We put a story up saying back soon. There's a lot to read into this. Connor, do you think Moise Kean's on his way now? Do you think like Callum's right, and you think it's a case of when and not if Moise Kean leaves, and that could maybe open the door to us making some late transfers? What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I know people always say, you shouldn't read into so much, and football fans in general always read in. I saw one the other day about him not smiling or half smiling on the Richarlison poster, and I feel like you can read into it too much. But I feel like what he's doing with his Instagram, sort of, there's no other way to read it. Like the deleting of your club's photos is one thing, but like for the back soon sort of story, I don't think you can read too much into that. I think it's quite obvious what you're reading. And I feel like Cal said, it is only a matter of time before he is shipped off, and maybe he knows something, and it's kept quite quiet because I can't see any other journalists reporting it. But obviously something's going on for him to delete and say back soon. It sort of leads to him going to a new club, doesn't it, and playing football for a new club. I think if he does go, I said this last night. I'm a bit gutted it didn't work out for him. I had high hopes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course.
Really high hopes, and he's a good player. There's aspects of his game that I didn't like. I think his hold-up play isn't very good. His first touch, the Salford game, was it 2 years ago now? He played, I thought, was really, that highlighted how poor his first touch was. But I feel like if he goes out, and it means we can bring a couple of players in who ultimately want to be at the club as well. I mean, if he doesn't want to stay, he doesn't want to stay, and it's sad, but you've got to sell.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, let's not forget, Moise Kean was for 95% of the season last season. We didn't have him anyway, so if we were to lose Moise Kean, it wouldn't. Whereas if we were to lose James, he was quite influential on the way we played and a lot of the goals we scored last season. So, Moise Kean would probably be the preferable one that I'd like to see leave. But you know what? I agree with what you said, Connor. It's disappointing that it hasn't worked out for him. But if we can recoup some money for Moise Kean and make a signing that's going to offer more to the squad, then that's going to have to be the way it is. So Callum, let's say Moise Kean does leave. How much does that really prioritise another striker at the club then for you? Are you quite happy with the options we've got at the minute?
I think we need a backup, but in the end, we shouldn't be spending more than 15 million or a loan on a backup because they're a backup. Like for example, Solomon Rondon on a free is not the end of the world for a backup. It's not the end of the world because, he's old, and don't get me wrong, he hasn't been the best. But in the end, it's a backup. He's barely going to play unless Calvert-Lewin gets injured, Richarlison gets injured. So both of them need to be unable to play for us to think. Because what we'll do is if Dom gets injured, all we have to do, Richarlison in the 9 and then Gray Townsend on the wing maybe, or James Gray on the wing or something like that. I don't think it's particularly the end of the world. So it'd be like, for example, someone like a Josh King again. And to be fair, if we had Rafa towards the end of last season, Josh King would have probably played. And Owen put here, we need better than Rondon. Who's a better backup? I'm not saying Rondon's the best backup striker, but when you don't have a lot of funds, going to get a striker who has proven he can score goals in the Premier League on a free, on cheap wages, is a smart option, because in the end, or give Ellis Sims a chance off the bench in the first team. There's options here that we can take, and in the end, I don't want Everton to go out and spend 15 million on a backup striker that's going to play 10 times, or is going to start 10 times and then come off the bench 20 times. It's pointless, and it's a waste of little money that we have.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you, mate. I mean, it's no secret that Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, they do offer us goals. So, you guarantee goals with them too. So, it's not too much of a disaster, I suppose, and that money can be invested elsewhere into the squad. Just focusing now on what we sparsely have invested into the squad. I just want to quickly pick up on Erwin Koeman. I think it was made a comment before about Andros Townsend. Just on Townsend and Gray, what sort of role do we see them having this season? Do you feel like they? Because I think from what I've seen of Gray, I think I think he might be thrown in the start quite a few of the games, because I feel like he's looked really sharp in pre-season. So what sort of roles are we expecting Townsend and Gray to have? Because I don't think I've actually done a stream since we've signed these two players. So what's your thoughts, Connor? What your thoughts on the signings of Townsend and Gray and what they're going to bring to the squad for this season?
I think Townsend is probably going to be an off the bench player. And or squad rotation maybe. For Demarai Gray, I think he adds a lot of pace. Again, I think in an ideal world he'd have been off the bench, when the opposition are getting a bit tired, or rotation cup games. But in an ideal world that would be the case. But now it's looking more realistic. He could end up being a starter for a couple, just because it's painfully obvious that our right wing is another area that after the right back we should probably start looking at, other than sticking a Wobie out there, which isn't brilliant. And I know we stuck James Rodriguez out there last season, but I don't think that's his best position to be played. I think he's better in the number 10 role, which it looks like Benitez uses the 4-2-3-1, so he might get that if he doesn't go. So I think in an ideal world these would have just been impact subs, but I can see Demarai Gray probably playing a couple more games and starting more games than Andros Townsend, just because of the situation that we're finding ourselves in terms of lack of signings.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about Demarai Gray as well, from what I've seen in pre-season, he looks quite a versatile player as well. Like he slots in well into that number 10 role, which could be an option. He seems to be quite, he seems to be sharp whenever he's been playing, which has been really encouraging to see. So we had the other player, Callum, that we're just going to talk about now, and this is just a name that just hasn't been out the headlines at all, for one reason or another, and it's James Rodriguez. What does the future hold for him? Because from what I've seen, a lot of the fan base are adamant, we should keep James. He offers so much to the squad, even if it's just for one more year while his contract runs out, and keep him into the squad. I agree with that. I think a player of James's quality and ability on the ball, you can't just throw that out the side like that, because he albeit he didn't play a lot that we would have liked him to last season, but he was influential when he did play. We can't get away from that, Callum. So how can you see this James situation unfolding? Because there's been some talk on Twitter today that Benitez he's came out and asserted that James just does not sit with his plans at all. So what's your take on the James situation, Cal?
Well, if no one wants to pay the money we've got to, then Benitez has got to deal with it and find a way to fit him in. If you're a good coach, you'll find a way to fit in someone with James's quality. I understand he's not defensively versatile, but he's a 10, you know what I mean? Not every team has to play like Liverpool or Leicester where everyone's pressing. There are ways to succeed without following. It's like Benitez has looked at every other team and gone, we have to copy those to succeed. We don't. Like, in the end, look at the team we have. If we want to progress forward, if Rafa wants to rebuild the team under his image, then I understand it, getting rid of James. Rebuilding the team, freeing up a lot of wages, and doing this and getting rid of James. I kind of understand his point, but I also want James to stay because there's the clear talent that he does have. And if we sell James, I feel like it is Everton just going, right, we're rebuilding again, boys, let's go. And it's just, it's just going in. It's the start of the circle all over again, isn't it? And then I guess at that point we're just hoping that we'll actually, break out of a circle. But I think we should keep him unless we can get 20 million for him. If someone wants to be stupid and pay us 20 million pounds for James Rodriguez, go for it. Yeah, cool. Bye. See you later. But it's just we're not going to get that money. So I think we have to keep him around because he's not. I don't think he's necessarily a hard player to fit into your system. He's your stereotypical number 10. You know what I mean? It's just if you surround him with, if you have Richarlison and Gray on the wing and Calvert-Lewin, they all work hard. So everyone around James is working hard. So in the end, we will have players pressing up front. James doesn't have to do it. All 10 outfield players don't have to be constantly running for 90 minutes straight. So it's difficult. So I don't want him to go. But if we get the right money, I can understand him leaving.
Yeah, Connor, where do you sit on the James situation? Would you take the money if somehow an offer came in for him, or do you think Benitez, we need to include James? He's such an influential player, and he's got goals, he's got assists, albeit maybe not the fittest player in the world. But given our current situation, would it be unwise to get rid of James at this point, or would you cash in if the opportunity came about?
I feel like it's a tough one because obviously last season I don't think we saw him in the number 10 role, and I'm quite excited to potentially see that. That's one of the other things that about this whole system that we reckon Rafa's going to play is we'll actually see him in his more natural position, and one that I think he'll do wonders for. The problem is obviously his wages as well as the 20 million would be nice. His wages would be freed up, so we'd be able to maybe sign a right back. But then it'd leave me in a position of who do you play in that number 10 role, just because there are one player that we don't speak about but might not be playing. And then you've got Alex Iwobi, who thinks that that's his main preferred position. But again, I've not seen enough from Alex Iwobi to believe that is actually his main best off position. So then you would be without a number 10 then, unless he wants to mess around and maybe put Decore there. Just because then when it folds into a flat 5 in the midfield and defends, you've got Decore who can offer a bit more defensively. And I know Decore's already come out in an interview and said that he's being asked to play a little bit more of an attacking role this season, one more resembling the one he did at Watford. So I'm thinking more box to box. But it could be a number 10 role. And Rafa said, when we're flat 5, I want you to play and sort of push out. But I think if we got rid of him, as much as the money and the wages off the books would be nice, you've got to have a plan for who you're going to fill the gap up with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's not forget as well. We've got Jean-Philippe Gbamin, who fingers crossed is gonna have his first proper season. I really hope it does work out for him because, again, he's another player. Like it's not been an unforgettable pre-season by any means. But I think what we've seen of him, he looked like he can certainly do a job. He can carry the ball. Looks like his range of passing's good, and he can break forward as well, which is something which is quite interesting because, to be honest, I really haven't down as that kind of player initially, but it looks like he can. He doesn't have an offensive side to his game as well. So, Callum, we'll just touch briefly on midfielders there. Do you feel like Gbamin can have should he stay fit, do you feel like he could be an integral part of the squad in that midfield this season?
Yeah, I don't think he starts because I think he's out of his mind to play Decore in the 10, unless he plays a 4-3-3. And then it kind of has, when we're going forward, Decore goes forward, the other two sit back. So it looks like a 4-2-3-1, but it's not really. I love Gbamin. I think he's a good player. I think he's proven it in pre-season that the guy's unfortunate. And you know what? We probably would have never signed Alan and Decore if he played, to be honest. And maybe Decore, I think we might have never signed Alan if he was fit. But I think he's going to come off the bench at the start. And I think maybe if he does impress more than Alan or something, he may slowly take a spot in the team. There is the Africa Cup of Nations as well, so I don't think it's a good idea starting him. Same with Iwobi, because then if let's say he starts and has fantastic games, then we lose that for the Africa Cup of Nations. Because I can imagine Ivory Coast will take him. I can't imagine why they wouldn't. I'm trying to think of midfielders. There's not exactly a few that blow up in my mind that I'd like as good as Gbamin or better than him. So I think midfield we're good at this season. I mean, we've got a lot of good options in midfield. We've got Alan, Decore, Davies, Gbamin. I don't think we need to improve there personally. So I think it's just about looking around there now. I even think, Davies and Gbamin as the rotation centre mids are really good options to rotate with. So I think for midfield, I think it's our strongest position. I think central midfield's our strongest position going into next season. I think there's a lot of options. So I think, unlike last season where we had to force Tom Davies into Alan's role, if Alan gets injured again, let's say we can just slot Gbamin into that role, even though Tom Davies did do a good job. So I'm not positive about a lot of this team. It's mainly left back, striker, and the midfield. But I do think the midfield's going to be a really good part of us this season. And I don't see the midfield getting dominated quite as much as it did last season, personally. Because I think there are going to be a set group of central midfielders that they'll all know how to play with each other and they'll all know what roles to play when they are on the pitch together.
Yeah, I go along with that, mate. I agree with that. Yeah, I think midfield's definitely one of our stronger areas on the pitch. It's just, we touched on outgoings there about Rodriguez and Kean. Obviously, there's a lot more players that we would like to see the back of. I think that goes without saying. So, Connor, it's hard to say, isn't it? We've got 3 weeks, just under 3 weeks of the transfer window left. Might even be less than that. Was it 2.5, 3 weeks, something like that? So it's can you see any other players going? I'm gonna say this. I mean, like Holgate. There was some rumours of Brighton sniffing around him earlier in the week. Iwobi. There's been some talk about Atalanta, but again, these wages are maybe going to become a sticking point because these clubs don't want to pay this kind of money for these players. Fabian Delph's another one. Can you see any real significant movement, Connor, or do you feel like we might just be heading into the season with a lot of these players still on the books, and that might just be the harsh reality of it?
I think out of the three you mentioned, I think the more likely one to possibly go is Holgate. I can't see Atalanta pushing massively for Iwobi, depending on his wage demands and how much Everton want to recoup. Because obviously we've spent a lot of money on him, so we'd like to sort of get some of that back. So that might stop the Atalanta talks. In terms of Fabian Delph, I know Watford was sniffing around at one point, but like I said to you before we came on, I feel like he's going to stay with us till his contract's run down and he goes on a free, and I think that suits him as well and his attitude. So I don't think he's that fussed to try and force his way out. Holgate, I mean, I could see that more just because obviously they've lost Ben White, so they could be looking at a new centre back to replace him. The biggest thing with Brighton would be have they got the money? What type of money have Everton valued Holgate at as well? Because obviously he's a bit of a tougher one. We brought him when he was young, so any real substantial amount of money is a profit on him. But it comes down to how much Everton value him as.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, isn't it? Personally, I think probably Holgate could be the one to go. I think potentially, Flash the Originals have put there Gomez. Again, he's another one, isn't he? There's been talk about the teams like Benfica sniffing around him. I don't know. I think one thing I will say, I think you probably find a lot of movement happens right down to the wire. I think you might find there might be a lot of activity towards the back end of the window, as we've seen in years gone by. Because let's not forget in the past, that year where Marouane Fellaini was sold, and that was very late in the window, and then before you know it, Gareth Barry, James McCarthy, and Romelu Lukaku signed on this pretty much the same day. So, strange things can happen in football, and we've seen it before. Just before we move on as well, and this is something which has been making an appearance in the comments, and Carl, I'll start with you on this one. Sean said, how would the three of you feel if Spurs sell Kean and come in for DCL and offer 70-odd million? Well, the Kean thing's not going to go away anytime soon. I feel like that's still to be resolved, and there has been a lot of talk about Tottenham maybe looking at Calvert-Lewin for Kane's replacement. Callum, do you think this is a possibility that could happen? And if it does, do you feel like Everton would take the money, or do you feel like it'd be criminal for Everton to get rid of Calvert-Lewin at this stage?
No, I don't think it would happen. I don't think Spurs are stupid enough to offer 75 million for Calvert-Lewin. No offense to Calvert-Lewin, but I think he's a fantastic striker. But if someone pays 75 million for Calvert-Lewin, that's how much Inter Milan played for Romelu Lukaku. You can't see it. But if Spurs come over and go, all right, Everton, we're desperate. It's 80 million for Calvert-Lewin. You bite their hand off. Of course, you accept 80 million for Calvert-Lewin because we've already got someone who can slide into the number 9 to replace him in Richarlison, and then we've 80. If we, I don't know, because if it's Everton signing the players, we're not going to sign anyone good. But if we put faith into them, maybe we can. And with £80 million, we can then go from, okay, let's sign a backup striker to play behind Richarlison, and then let's bring in a real few quality players. Because in the end, I'd be happy to lose Calvert-Lewin if they go, right, you lose Calvert-Lewin, you get 80 million, you buy a right back, a backup striker, you buy a really good winger, you buy depth for Din, yeah. Because let's look at it. Look at Villa, what they've done with 100 million. They spent, what was it, 30 on Ings, 30 on Bailey, and who else have they signed? 45 on Buendia.
Buendia, yeah.
So with 105 million, they've got Bailey, Buendia, and I've gone out of my overhead over who else they've signed, and Ings. They've reformed their front line with 105 million pounds. So it's clear we can do it. And Owen's put, I think, DCL over Richie, but who's going to offer 80 million for Richie? It'd be the same for Richarlison. If Barcelona came back, or if Real Madrid got the money and went, here's 80 million for Richarlison, yeah, take it. Because right now, during the world we're in right now, 80 million can help reshape a team. You don't have to pay 60 million for one player due to the pandemic. 80 million pounds can reshape your team if you're smart with your signings. So I think, for that much money we've got to, because we can go from needing one striker to really being able to do something. And Gavin's put, if we sell DCL, you can write the season off. I don't care, as long as we don't get relegated. If someone went to me, right now, you can have all this money to rebuild and put yourself in a really good position, not this season, next season, I'd take it. In the end, it's like I said, I wouldn't mind selling James if Rafa came out and said, we're trying to build a real project here now. We're trying to rewrite the mistakes of the past by, instead of signing big name players that we don't need, we're trying to go under the radar like fellow clubs like Leicester and Aston Villa. Obviously, Bailey's not under the radar, but he's under the radar enough where you're paying 30 million for someone who put similar numbers to Kai Havertz in a Leverkusen team. So, it's kind of, it's mental to think about that someone would offer 80 million for Calvert-Lewin. I don't think they would. I think maybe if he played a bit more in the Euros and scored one or two, maybe. But in the end, I feel like if we're going to get 80 million for Calvert-Lewin, he's going to get 20 league goals this season, not just 20 goals, 20 league goals this season. And then we will have to consider it then. So it depends what Everton do with the money is my answer, and we don't know. So it's unless we've got guarantees of what Everton are going to do with the money and they've got outlined plans, then it's hard to say, really.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said there, Callum. Yeah, I'd probably go along with that. If big money came in with Calvert-Lewin, I probably would reinvest more in multiple areas of the squad rather than A, because, I think there's not many that top-class strikers available, like for like, and B, let's be realistic. What top quality strikers will want to come to Everton? We don't play in Europe and mid-table, so I agree with you, but I don't see Calvert-Lewin leaving. I really don't see that happening anytime soon. Anyway, no, not at all. Michael Williams has got 10 A stars today, so we best keep this good form up for Saturday. Very well done, Michael.
10 A stars, what?
That is an incredible result. That is an incredible result.
That's
well done,
mental.
mate.
That's mental.
So Connor, so obviously just picking up on what we just spoke about Calvert-Lewin there. Do you see him going if Kean goes, and if so, if a team came sniffing around, would you stick or twist? Would you say no, Everton got to keep Calvert-Lewin this season, or would you maybe go along what Callum's saying and maybe invest that money into multiple areas of the squad, as we've seen with clubs like Aston Villa?
I mean, personally, I think Spurs, they're obviously sniffing around Lautaro Martinez, and I know they're saying from their end that he's going to play alongside Harry Kane, but I think the rest of the footballing world know that's probably not going to be the reality. So I think they're probably just going to go for him. And I don't think he's going to cost them 70 or 80 million, which is a great price. I did see Terry Tibbs, though, say that unfortunately, if we do that, there's 20 goals of our season moved off. And like Cal said, this is the problem. And it was the same with when we lost Lukaku, is that you've got to put a lot of your hopes in that the club will sign somebody either. I don't like you said, there's not many world-class strikers available, but I wouldn't mind if they put it into somebody who had the potential to be that world-class 20 goals a season striker. But then it comes down to, it's hindsight, isn't it? If you had a time machine and you could go forward 5 years and see how they turned out, it'd be brilliant. but we don't, unfortunately. So it's, do you have a
you
lot
don't
of
want to, you don't want to be left with like another Moise Kean situation, do you? And that's where it comes down to recruitment, isn't it?
And you don't want to sort of sell your best asset like selling Lukaku and then thinking Sandro Ramirez type players are going to come and fill that void. Like Steve Walsh ultimately said, we don't need Lukaku's goals. You don't want to sort of put yourself in that boat either, where you're like, well, we sold our best striker. Now what do we do? I know obviously Richarlison is an option, but there's still a debate on whether he's an out-and-out striker or he's a left winger inside forward, isn't there? There's still a lot of managers. I know Ancelotti couldn't really make his mind up which one, and Marco Silva seemed to think he was a left winger. So there's still a lot up to debate on where Richarlison's best position is.
Yeah, and Gavin Johnson says, I'd snatch Spurs' hands off for 80 million if it was early in the window. If you gave Everton 80 million now, it'd be scattergun signings. Does he have a point there, like at this stage in the window? If it was maybe like in the first week of the transfer window, do you think maybe Villa always saw that they were going to get that money for Grealish, which hence why they've made all these signings? Right there, Carl.
Yeah, my laptop just decided to go on. So I jump off. Even my laptop's had enough.
So scattergun signings. I mean, I think what Gavin's saying is, we've seen it in the past where Everton have just thrown money at players who have given very little back, and I think that's what we don't want to see again, isn't it? David McCaffrey says DCL is awful at 1v1s and misses far too many sitters. If he was such a top class striker, he would have got more than one minute playing time at the Euros. Sell. What are your thoughts on that?
He's playing behind arguably the best striker in the world. What do you mean? It's like me. That's like me saying, let's think. Andre Silva for Portugal's crap because he's not starting over Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? I get your point, and his 1v1s aren't fantastic, and they need to be improved massively. But it doesn't make him awful, does it? It's like Ronaldo misses a load of free kicks. Does that make him an awful footballer?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go along with that. His Euro playing time reflects his ability.
I don't think he's awful at 1v1s either. He's just not. I don't think he's technically there to the point now where he can bury the 1v1s enough. I feel like that's also something he'll notice, and he's the type of player that is, happy to improve himself, and he's shown it season in, season out. There's been aspects of his game where we've complained about, and then the next season he's massively improved on it. Like, let's face it, before last season, did we know Calvert-Lewin was that good aerially? No, we didn't. We didn't know he was that good. We knew he could win a header, but we didn't know he could almost jump over people like a basketball player. It's ridiculous. And in the end, maybe in those 1v1s, I would prefer Richarlison. And like I said, for 80 million, I take it. I 100% take 80 million. But at the same time, if we don't get the money Everton want, then no, you keep him. This has been our problem for a while now. We should only accept offers that are our value. It's like the Moise Kean situation. If Inter Milan don't want to give us 40 million euros or 35 million euros, cool, mate. Go play in the under-23s. We don't care. And in the end, it's a bit crap and we'll end up losing money on him. But then it's also the hype for that player dies down and we go, listen, we're giving you a chance here. You can either prove something with the first team. No one's interested in you. What do you want us to do? Like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of difficult. But at the same time, it's just, I don't think it's bad enough to the point where we have to get Calvert-Lewin out of the door. We don't, because in the end, you take all those league goals out at the start of the season for Calvert-Lewin, and I know he fell apart in the second half of the season, but where we finished 10th with 14 league goals, without Calvert-Lewin's goals, we'd have been close to a relegation. And it's just that sort of thing, because we don't know if Richarlison really will produce as a 9. He had that good little stretch when Dom got injured, but then when he started getting playing as a 9 when they came back and they were both playing as strikers in that week. I think it was a 4-3-1-2. It wasn't really good at all. So it's difficult. If we get the money we want, if we get £80 million, 70 to £80 million, you accept it. And then I'm hoping with the scattergun signing things that because we haven't had a lot of money, we've got a big short list of players that we wanted, but that we just haven't been able to sign. And then maybe with the money, we can go to that short list and go, right, you, who were all top of it on each position we wanted, and then go, we have the money to sign you now. And so maybe FFP hitting us might have actually helped us because it has made the club think a lot more than they usually would, to be honest.
I agree. I mean, just moving on from the Calvert-Lewin thing, personally, I don't think he'll go. I don't think he'll go at all.
No, I don't think he will.
I don't think you won't get rid of Calvert-Lewin at this stage. I think that won't happen at all. So yeah, just before we move on from transfers, we have a quick little talk about the weekend's big curtain raiser. Connor, what are your predictions with the remaining weeks of the transfer window? What do you see happening? Do you see Kean leaving, Hammers leaving, both leaving, just one of them leaving? Other players leaving? Anyone coming in? Connor, I know it's very hard to say because things can change on the daily basis as we've seen. But what do you think the lay of the land will look like by the time the transfer window shuts?
I think Moise Kean sort of has to go a little bit because of what he's done on social media. It would be if he doesn't go now, it'd be very awkward and it'd raise a lot of questions of, well, what was all that about? Unless it was his way of forcing a move out, which again wouldn't go down very well with the fans and would put him in a really tough spot. So I feel like he's got to have done that because he's confident he's leaving. Otherwise, it's it's really silly to try and force your way out of a club by doing public displays like that. Sort of reminds me of when Odin Wingy turned up in a car park when wanted to be sold. It's that level of don't publicly do that, because if you end up staying at your club, you're not going to be very well liked by your fan base, who are obviously aware that you were trying to force your way out. And I can see him leaving. I think that was more him getting his fans, fans of players hyped for his new season. I don't know where he'll go. I don't think PSG are going to be interested now they've got Lionel Messi. Maybe Inter Milan, maybe back in Italy probably suits him as well because he's a young lad, and that was one of the things that people giving him credit for. He's a young lad in a new country, so maybe that's where he's better off while he's nurturing. James Rodriguez, I think is completely whether someone comes in for him. I think he's happy to stay. He said it a couple of times on Twitch, hasn't he? He said at the minute he's happy to stay, but he's also happy to leave. I think he just wants to play football. And whether that be us or someone else, he's not that bothered, which I don't think anyone ever, he made it, obviously came in for Ancelotti. We all knew that. He didn't come because he desired to play for Everton. He came because he was a man he trusted in charge and would help try and revitalise his career. So I think as long as he gets football, he's not too bothered about the club because that's all he's concerned about, is trying to, revitalise his career in the ending stages of it. In terms of incomings, I don't know. I feel like some of them, it's tough to say because I was going to say that McNeil maybe because it's got legs, but Denzel Dumfries has been linked since before the Euros, and that looked like it had legs and was a disappointment. So I don't know. Possibly, I think we'll see a new right back, whether it's that lad from Anderlecht or we end up getting a
just on right back, Connor. There's a few comments just coming in now. Just why you've mentioned right back. What are your thoughts on? Apparently, I haven't really seen much, but we've been linked with Trippier. Would that be something you'd be interested in, Connor?
I mean, he adds to the quality of the squad. He certainly improves it, whether he improves it massively or not, but he does improve it, which is what the club would be looking at. The problem with the Trippier one is I don't think he would come for cheap wages. I'd be surprised if we're the only team in for him as well.
Man United.
Yeah,
apparently we're after him.
So I'd be surprised if he came to us. But he certainly adds. I know people will say, is he fast enough for a fullback position? But obviously his crossing's very good. His set pieces are very good. And he is better than what we've got now. I don't mean to be, again, don't want to, blasphemy at Seamus Coleman, but he is better. He adds a bit more quality to the squad, which is what we need. He improves it more than stale or hinders it. You know what I mean? So it's possible. I think more than likely we're going to go with that lad from Anderlecht because he's the cheaper option. And I feel like that's what we'll see. We might even get Rondon. And I feel like next summer is the one where we're going to sort of start spending money again. I've got this feeling next summer we're going to go mental because we were restrained this year. And they're just going to go, this is, we need improvements. This is the money you've got. Go mad. Sort of like when we had Ancelotti, there was apparently he was going to get this, war chest of money. I don't know how that was rumoured. But I don't know how we would give him that anyway under the situation, that we're currently in. But maybe they're holding that back for another summer, and that's what Benitez gets next summer. He gets a war chest of money to just go mad with.
Yeah. hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, like we said at the start of the stream, the stupidity of the spending has finally caught up with us over the last 5 years, and this is the situation we're in. It's like we've been running from it for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's finally caught up with us. So yeah, just before we move on, Callum, same question to you. What are your predictions for the remaining weeks of the transfer window? What do you see unfolding?
I could honestly see it will be and Holgate leaving, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because I feel like maybe if Atalanta come in and say, I think we could get 15 to 20 million for Iwobi if on the sole basis of, he's clearly got potential and maybe in an attacking team like Atalanta. Let's face it, he'll join Atalanta and get 15 goals and 10 assists because it's Everton, look. We know it. And if Atalanta are looking at you, then there's clearly something about you that's positive because they don't make stupid signings, Atalanta. Holgate, we might be able to rob them for 20 just because they've got loads of money from Ben White. We might be able to go, listen, look at the potential before this season. He just had a bad season. It's clearly there. I don't know at the same time. I don't want to go and sell both of them for like 10. Maybe I wouldn't mind for example, I don't want to lose 20 million on Alex Iwobi. 15 million for Holgate I can accept. But at the same time, knowing us, Potter will get Holgate back to his best, and then we'll be like, oh. So he did have that in him the entire time. It's difficult to say. I could see 2 or 3 players leaving out of that big group of players that's rumoured to leave. James, Delph, Iwobi, Holgate, maybe Mina, a few others. But at the same time, I don't know if Mina's going to leave now because Mina's saying to James, or stay with building something here at Everton and then we can build something at Colombia too in his stream. So it's just... Yeah, it's just strange overall. And then I see us making a few cheap signings. I feel like this summer is going to be smart but cheap signings. Nothing to really get us to jump out of our seats. Yeah. But then when we look at it at the end of the season, we'll go, oh, that was some smart business there by Rafa. It was a decent transfer window. Maybe we get one big signing in. Yeah, I'll say it. We'll get one big signing in, a McNeil, a right back. There'll be one big one. But I agree with Connor completely. Next summer, knowing our luck, we're going to go and spend 50 million on someone from Brighton because he had a decent season, because that's what Everton do. When they get money, they waste it. But if we're going to give him a war chest, I hope this entire season is going to Marcel Brands and everyone going, get a scouting team out everywhere and make sure we've got every statistic to fit our system. Instead of doing what Leicester do and looking at the players Leicester sign, we should be looking at players that fit the Everton system and are at a decent price with a lot of potential. It's like when Leicester signed Kante, they assigned one of their scouts to look for specific stats in each player, and that's how they found Kante, because it was Toni Kroos, someone else, and then Kante was the outlier, and they went, well, if he's standing out with this quality, he's clearly got to be a good player. There are ways to do it, and I just feel like the staff Everton have aren't intelligent enough, but aren't working hard enough to look at, Brent. Here we go. It's like someone's put it here. It's about something different, but Brentford and Norwich are another example of teams that do really well in recruitment. And even if it means Norwich go down and we go, oh, Norwich, does your chief scout want to come join Everton or something like that? It might even be we're asking for players. It might be we might need a new scouting team. It's really difficult to figure out, and I think we've got to wait. This transfer window has been the most difficult yet to figure out, really.
Yeah, it has, Carl, hasn't it? And like we said, you mentioned that, this summer is going to be about signing, your cheap, shrewd signings maybe that are just going to, beef up the squad a little bit. And that I feel like unless we sell big players, then that's just going to be the way it is, because like we said before, it's caught up with us and we've got no one to blame for ourselves. But obviously not the three of us, but like the powers that be have put us in that situation, and that's the way it is. You can't run from it forever. I've seen a few comments as well in the past couple of days saying they think the club, they banked so much on the fact that we qualified for Europe and that we would sell Moise Kean to PSG, and that's just not been the case. And and it's come back to bite us, and we're just so restricted in this market, which brings us nicely onto the next point. Is this going to affect our season? There's a comment, Dave McCaffrey said at the end there, it's going to be a really poor season overall, regardless of transfers. And I've seen a lot of people this season are very, it's the first season in a while that I've really, as if we go back to this time last year, everyone was so excited. He couldn't wait for the ball to get rolling. We just signed Alan, Decore, James, Ancelotti's first full season. And, And then, of course, we beat Tottenham on the opening day, and there was just such a good feeling about the place at this time last year, at the beginning of last season. And this year, it's like night and day, isn't it? It just feels like there's so much negativity surrounding the place at the minute, and there's a lot of fans are worried, Connor. So, before we delve into the nitty gritty of the Southampton game and like what how that might shape our season, what I thought going into this season with the way things, I know that recently a video's been brought out with the season preview, so be sure to watch that after this. But just quickly, what are your thoughts on the? Are you worried? Because I'm a bit worried, to be honest. Like I'm not. I don't think worried is the word actually. I feel like my expectations are low. They're low. They're not high. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm not. Well, it depends on what you call worried, I guess. I'm not worried. I think we're gonna have an underwhelming season.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remain a bit positive because I remember when we first announced Benitez and stuff, I came on and said, it's going to be a horrible season, and was told, think a bit more optimistically and positively. So with that head on, I think genuinely 10th to 12th is a good finish this season for us. Just bearing in mind
that sounds so painful.
I know. That's the most positive I can think. I hope I'm wrong, but that's the most positive I can think.
If that's positivity, mate, Jesus Christ, it's gonna be a long year.
Just because, obviously we got a new manager, so every time we know the drill by now because we have one every 18 months. New manager, new system, players have to integrate. Takes a while. That's the way the world works. Any manager that we'd have got in would have taken time to put his system in place. They do reckon Benitez was picked because his best suits Everton, so hopefully the players, sink into his system a little bit quicker. And again, teams around us doing very well recruitment-wise. Aston Villa look very good. Leicester look very good. Arsenal, I don't think have massively, Ben White's a good signing, but I don't think they're massively making a lot of noise. But the teams around us, I think, have improved as well, worryingly enough. And I think that sort of finish would just be, don't get me wrong, it's underwhelming. It's nothing to get excited about. But if we could get that in a good cup run, I said it yesterday on the stream, that in a good cup run would be would be quite a positive season to build on. And I think that's all this season really will be looked at by Everton, is a good layer of foundation for the next summer where we might be able to spend a little bit more, and then so on, which it's very depressing to say because it almost writes off the season and we've not even got it started. But like we were saying, maybe you come into this season with low expectations and this is the season we push on, and if the bar's low enough, you're always going to go above it then, aren't you? So that sort of thing.
Yeah. Cal, what are your thoughts? We're 48 hours away from the first game on the back of what has just seemed to be the longest summer in memory ever since Ancelotti left, the manager, Rafa coming in, the whole managerial search, the players, who's coming, who's going, and the season starts Saturday. Callum, we've been making a few streams now over the summer. What are your sort of thoughts going into this first game? Are you confident for this season, or are you just like me and Cal, where just the bar's just quite low, and if we exceed that, it's going to be a positive season? What do you reckon?
I think we're going to finish 8th or 9th, to be honest with you. I feel like I might be a shocker. I think Rafa's better suited to the job than Ancelotti was. The guy knows how to grind out results. He's good at it. He's proven that he is good at it. And in the end, maybe but we've seen this with a few managers where they go abroad, have a terrible thing, and then we're like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. He's not got this. He's not got that. And then they come in and go, well, no, we do actually. Let me prove it to you. I feel like we're going to just naturally grind out results, and I feel like it will be. I feel like 9th more realistically, because I do think Villa finish above us unless that attack just can't gel, or they get a big defensive injury. Because to be honest, if Mings gets injured, Tuanzebe's not going to do a good enough job to replace him, and Villa will ship goals. But even with Emi Martinez in goal, but I think 9th, 8th to 10th is realistic. I could see Leeds having a bit of a slump, not like to like 15th, but to like 11th, because they're going to start getting figured out a little bit, and teams will start realizing, why are we pressing Leeds? Let's just let them do all the work and tire them out. So it's just, I don't think saying like 15th, 12th, 13th, it's just being pointlessly pessimistic, isn't it? It's just going like in the end, we've got like 8th and 9th. Sorry, Callum, it's not a dream though, is it? Because in the end, we have got the same squad that finished 10th last season, the same squad that didn't lose for the first 7 games of the season, and it's not like Carlo Ancelotti was a world-class manager at Everton. He wasn't. We beat Liverpool for the first time. We went on a good run. He's still not world-class. He's good, and he will always be a good manager. But like I've said, he's good at the big clubs. He does his best work at the big clubs where he can work with the best players. Ancelotti works best with the best. It's simple as that. Rafa Benitez has shown that he can take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad sometimes. And in the end, I feel like we'll do that enough. It won't be like a 9th place finish when we're like, yeah, we're moving forward. We'll look at it at the end of the season and go, hey, we finished 9th. It'll be that, because it'll look a lot worse than it actually ends up being. Because I feel like our one problem last season was we couldn't beat the small teams. We couldn't beat them, and I feel like we will do that this season. I feel like we'll put away the Norwiches, the Newcastles, the Brentfords. I rate Brentford, but I think we'll put them away to the point where we may get battered by the big teams, but we've beaten the smaller teams enough to the point where we're just in that top half of the table. And I think part of me is pessimistic and thinks maybe I am just trying to look at some optimism in the season. But I just think a lot of clubs maybe aren't going to perform to a high enough level and we'll be able to squeak out wins against them to the point where we can squeeze into the top half, maybe 10th again. But in the end, I don't think we're going to be anywhere near relegation. I'm not worried about finishing in the bottom 5. Maybe I'm going to, if I had to give like a wide range, I'd say between like 8th and 12th is where we're going to finish. I don't think any lower than that, really, because in the end, we've got a man who knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. And a bad spell in China, yeah, but in the end, he was like the one Chinese team that wasn't spending 40 million on average players and then who could turn into superstars in China. Managing China's under-18s team in the Chinese league, it doesn't matter who you are. If I'm having to manage, I'm not going to say a name because then I'll get called racist. Insert Chinese backline here against Bakambu, Oscar, Talisca, players like that. Yeah, of course they're going to get ripped to shreds. They'd get ripped to shreds by a few Sunday League teams. So I don't think it's as bad as we think. It's just like Owen's put here, better. Do you think Benitez will... position-wise, yeah, I don't think we'll get more points. I don't think we beat 59 points, but I think we finished 9th or 8th, personally.
I don't think I could bear going through another managerial hunt, to be honest with you. God almighty.
I don't think he's going to get sacked. I think he's going to just be, stereotypical safe manager throughout the season. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just nothing exciting. We won't beat Liverpool again. We'll lose to Liverpool twice again. We'll lose to all the big teams, but then we'll beat the small teams and just go, oh, all right then, cool. It was okay. We won't be like fantastic season, but we'll be like, it'll do. It was okay. Just move on from it and hope we can improve the next season.
Really sold that season to us.
I know, I'm going to the Southampton game as well. It's like the...
Cam from the Mighty Blues says, "Evening lads, just me a bit upset seeing Lukaku's return to Chelsea. Yeah, it's good. It's like seeing your ex-missus with a new fella for the first time, and it's horrible, terrific." AK Richie 7 says, "Calm down, we're going for the top 4. That's the sort of positivity we need. Brighten up the stream a little bit."
I'm winning lottery every day this year.
It'll be mad if we just, because the expectations are so low, we just had a freak season and we just blow everyone out the water. But
if we finish in the top 4, I'll get a tattoo of Rafa Benitez on my foot. I'm that confident.
That's a bold statement to make, Carl. Stranger things.
Yeah, but it's on my foot, isn't it? No one's ever going to see it. And then if I get it, I'm like, well, he got us top 4. It's fine. Or I'll get fat Spanish waiter on like the heel or something. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out if we get top 4.
Just before we wrap things up from this stream, and obviously thanks for all your comments and everything. If you're already, be sure to drop a like. And just a side note as well, make sure you go check out the season preview video after this one, and keep your eye out for the match preview of the big game at the weekend, Everton versus Southampton. I'm just going to close Erwin Koeman, Everton Premier League champions 21-22. God. I think Cal we won't see him for a week if that happens.
I'll have to come on and for stream. I'll have to put like my foot in front of the camera and it'll just be Rafa Benitez. You know what? I'll get a Rafa Benitez tattoo by choice if we win the league. I won't even have to lose a bet for that. I'll get one by choice.
Well, that's a live stream. You're getting it done.
Yeah, go on. I'll come up to Liverpool or something. We'll go into like a Liverpool fan tattoo parlor. We'll go, right, I want Rafa Benitez's face on my thigh, underneath it, Premier League champions 21-22.
Oh God! Right, just finally before we finish up the stream, last one from me, Connor. Just how important is it that we get 3 points in front of a packed out Goodison Park on Saturday to set up our season?
I'm going to say massive, because since he's been appointed, and this was when I was told to stop thinking positively, I've been saying, imagine the fume if we lose to Southampton on the first game back. And also, I think Southampton are in danger of possibly going down, this season. You've took away Danny Ings' goals, and at the minute they don't have I think they're going to probably have to play Shane Long up front against us.
Vestergaard's just gone as well, I think.
Apparently Vestergaard's going. And like, even if they get Adam Armstrong from Blackburn, he will take a while to adapt to the Premier League, and he's not going to get the 12 goals that Danny Ings got them last season. And if you take away his 12 goals last season, Southampton are real, they're down, they're out. So I feel like Southampton are going to have a really tough Premier League campaign. So that added on top of I feel like the best thing for the whole manager controversy, the whole lack of signing controversy, the whole just underwhelming feeling of the fan base, the best thing to do would be to go out there in front of a packed out Goodison, and I want to say thump Southampton, but I'd even be happy with a 1-0 win, just to get some points on the board, have a strong start, because the fixtures do look slightly easy. There's worse starts to the season you could have. So it's important we rack these points up. And like Cal said, beat this. If we're going to get beat by the top teams, at least make sure we get these easy, the smaller teams get points on ready for it. So I think it's very important we get off to a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it, isn't it? I mean, there's so much negativity, as we've mentioned, going around, and there's such a disconnect between a lot of fans and the club, and 3 points is going to be massive just to like throw a bit of water onto the fire, you know what I mean, and just get everyone, okay, the first 3 points are on the board, we can build on this now. It'd be great to see Goodison packed out again, and hopefully the players can put on a performance that we can be proud of when we come away, open game of the season with 3 points. Anyone go in the game at the weekend?
Yep.
No, unfortunately not.
I am, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So now in my luck, do you know what though? To give you some hopes, I hope I ain't jinxing it. Every time I've been to Goodison Park, we've won. So let's just hope that's let's hope I haven't jinxed it live on stream, and let's hope that it is actually a good luck charm and that I ain't just picked the right games to go to each time.
There we go. Yep, I'll be there. Upper Bullens. Cal, where are you sitting?
I think do you know what? I think I'm just in the family one, because in the end, I've not. It's been so long since I've gone that I've just forgot where's the best place to sit. So I went, do you know what? I'm right in front of the pitch. I'm just going to sit there.
Yeah. As I say, looking forward to getting back in these seats, seeing loads of old faces. It's been too long without a packed out Goodison Park. And, despite everything that's been going on this summer, from the moment Carlo Ancelotti left to where we are now on the eve of the season, it's going to be great to get back into Goodison, and hopefully the boys get 3 points and we can kick on from there and get a bit more positivity going. But yeah, there we go. I think we'll wrap up the stream there. Thanks, Connor. Thanks, Callum, for coming on. Hopefully 3 points at the weekend and we can kick on, and hopefully we can get up back on and do another stream soon. So yeah, cheers. All the best, lads. Thanks for coming on. And of course, thanks to everyone for dropping a like and leaving a comment. Be sure to check out the rest of the content coming up surrounding this weekend's big fixture, Everton versus Southampton, the opening game of the Premier League season. Okay, cheers, everyone. All the best. Take care.